All right, so today we're doing a deep dive into Scopist interviews,
Yeah.
and we are going to figure out how to ace those questions, really knock it out of the park, and get that job.
Right. And I think a lot of times you can go into an interview, you can have the skills, but being able to articulate them and, really wow them is a really important skill.
Absolutely, and that's what we're hoping to do today. So to really, dig into this, we have some real interview questions that we pulled from RoleCatcher's resources, which is awesome.
Yes.
We're going to figure out what's underneath those questions, what are they really asking, and figure out how we can answer them strategically.
Yes. You can think of it as a roadmap for your interview.
I love that. So let's get started with this first one. What led you to pursue a career as a scopist? I feel like this is the classic opener. Seems simple enough, but what are they really trying to get at with this question?
Well, I think you always want to go a little bit deeper than just a surface answer. So instead of just saying, oh, I like to edit or something like that, really try to tie it back to how important of a job it is.
Right, like the impact
Yes, the impact, exact.
that a scopist has.
Because you are the one that is really that guardian of making sure everything is accurate and correct on these legal documents, and they're so important.
Yeah.
So you could say something like, I've always been really detail-oriented. I love language, but I really wanted to find a career where I was also giving back. And I really feel like the meticulous nature of being a scopist, really spoke to me. And to be able to contribute to the justice system in that way felt really important.
I love that, yeah. You're highlighting what you're good at, what you're passionate about, but also like tying it back to this larger impact and the importance of the role.
Yes.
Okay, so you've nailed that first part. You've made a good first impression, and they want to know more, and they ask, what aspects of scopist work do you find most engaging, and why?
I love that question because it really gives you the opportunity to shine and show that you're really enthusiastic about this.
Right, it's not just like, oh, I fell into this.
Yeah, exactly.
This is what I'm doing, but I've really thought about this.
Yes, exactly. I've researched this, and this is why I'm excited. And you can say something like, well, I'm really fascinated by legal terminology. And I love the challenge of having to listen to these audio recordings. Sometimes they're really difficult and really kind of decipher what's being said. And then, I really enjoyed taking that spoken word and turning it into this accurate written transcript.
It's like a puzzle.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a puzzle.
Okay, so you're showing that you love the detail.
Yes.
You love those detail-oriented tasks.
Yes.
Awesome. All right, next question. How do you ensure accuracy in your work? This isn't just spell check.
Exactly. It's so true. And I think this is where you highlight those proofreading skills and those editing skills because it's so much more than that.
Right, you have to have a system.
Yes, a system. Exactly. So tell them about that. Talk about the different techniques. So I might say something like, in addition to, my conventional spell check and grammar tools, I also have a multi-layered approach. So I like to read transcripts backwards so I can really focus on each individual word and make sure that it's correct. And then I also utilize a software. And this software is called Software Name, and this helps make sure all of my legal citations are consistent.
And then I don't know if you've ever done this, but I also read it out loud because sometimes you can kind of become immune to your own work.
Yes.
And so I read it out loud just to make sure that it makes sense.
That's a great tip.
Yeah, and I feel like that shows that next level, that you are really detail-oriented.
Yes.
Okay, so you've talked about accuracy, but now they want to know, how do you handle the challenges? So let's say they ask, tell us about a time you handled a difficult transcript. Was it a murder trial? Just kidding. Maybe. Yeah. How do you approach a question like that?
Yeah, so I think this is where you can really show them how you problem solve and how you can be adaptable because things come up.
Yeah, everyone loves a good story.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Even in an interview.
Yeah, so think about an example that you have where you really had to overcome something. And then instead of just saying what the problem was, really focus on what you did to solve that problem.
Right, so not just, oh, the audio was terrible, but this is what I did.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I might say something like, I had this one transcript and the audio quality was really poor. There was a lot of background noise. And so what I did was I used an audio enhancement software and I also cross-referenced with the witness statements to make sure I was getting every single word correct.
Wow, that's so smart. And you're showing your resourcefulness too.
Yes.
Like you were going to figure out how to get this done.
Exactly. And that you're going to do whatever it takes to make sure it's accurate.
Yes. Okay, so we're getting into the nitty-gritty here. How do you handle inconsistencies or discrepancies in a transcript?
Oh, good question.
I feel like this is where the rubber meets the road, right? Like, how are you handling those day-to-day things that are going to come up?
Absolutely. And I think that's what they want to see. They want to see that you really understand what this job is all about. And I think you could say something like, well, when I come across something like that, I immediately go back and I listen to the audio again really carefully. I might refer to, my legal dictionaries, style guides to make sure that I'm interpreting things correctly. And then if I'm really not sure, I'm going to flag it for clarification from the court reporter.
So you're showing that you're not afraid to ask for help.
Yes.
But that you're also, accuracy is number one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. You're going to get it right.
Yes, exactly. And I think, that's really important to demonstrate that you have those resources available to you and that you know when and how to use them.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. So, we talked about accuracy, we talked about problem solving, but now let's talk about staying up to date because the legal field.
Oh, yeah. It's always changing.
Constantly changing. So how would you answer this question? The legal world changes fast. How do you stay updated?
It's like they want to know that you're going to stay on top of things.
Yes. Are you going to be a lifelong learner? Are you going to stay, relevant in this career? And I would touch on a couple things. I would talk about any professional organizations that you're a part of, any publications that you follow, any webinars you've attended.
Yeah, you're really painting that picture of I am engaged.
I'm active in my field. I'm not just, going to do the bare minimum here. So a great answer to that would be like, well, I'm actually a member of organization name and I regularly review their publications to stay up to date on any changes in legal terminology or just industry best practices. And I also follow a few legal tech blogs, like blog names, so I can learn about any new software, new tools that are coming out.
It's like you're one step ahead.
Exactly. Always learning.
Okay, this next one I feel like can trip people up sometimes. RoleCatcher has guides on this. But T, how do you prioritize your workload?
Yes, it's a little bit of a, lighthearted way to ask that, but it's so important because Scopists have to be really organized.
Yeah.
They're juggling multiple projects and deadlines, so being able to show that you can prioritize is going to be key.
So not just I'm organized,
Right.
but this is how
I actually implement that. So I always recommend describe your system, whether it's, time blocking, a priority matrix, whatever works for you, but then tie it back to being a Scopist. So for example, I use this, digital task management system that I love. And I categorize all my transcripts by deadline urgency, how long they are, how complex they are. And that allows me to really visually prioritize.
That's great.
And make sure I'm allocating my time, effectively.
Yeah, you're not going to miss a deadline.
Exactly.
Because you've got a system.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're talking about systems.
Yes.
But Scopists don't work alone.
Yeah.
They work closely with court reporters.
Yes. Very important.
So how do you answer this question? Can you discuss your experience working with court reporters? Do they make you nervous?
It's a great question, and it gives you the opportunity to talk about your communication skills, your interpersonal skills, and show that you can build rapport and work collaboratively because it's a team effort.
So even if it's been a little challenging in the past, you don't want to
Right. You don't want to
throw anyone under the bus.
Exactly. You always want to keep it positive. So focus on those positive aspects, those positive interactions. So I would say something like, I found that it's really all about open communication with court reporters.
Yeah.
I provide clear, concise feedback on transcripts. Maybe I use like track changes so I can highlight certain areas
Right, smart.
for clarification. And I really value their expertise, and I always let them know that I appreciate, their willingness to work together.
It shows that you're a team player.
Exactly.
Okay, let's switch gears a little bit here and talk about confidentiality.
Ooh.
Because this is so important when you're dealing with these legal documents, and they want to know that you understand the gravity of that. So how would you answer this question? Confidential information.
Yeah.
It's like Freight Club, but for legal docs. How do you handle it?
I love that analogy.
Right.
And I think it's so true because you really are dealing with some very sensitive information, and they want to know that you take that seriously. So I would use this as an opportunity to highlight your professionalism, your ethical conduct, that you always are going to protect that information and go beyond just saying, oh, I'm discreet.
Right.
Really show them that you have systems in place. So a good answer would be, I understand, the importance of handling confidential information. And because of that, I've implemented all these security measures to make sure everything is protected. I use encrypted file storage, strong passwords. I make sure my workspace is secure. And I'm well versed on all the legal and ethical obligations when it comes to confidentiality. And that's always my top priority.
You are showing them right there that you understand the weight of that and that you're taking it seriously. Yeah, you're really hitting all the right notes there, showing them that you've got this.
Yeah, and you're trustworthy.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about, confidentiality. We've talked about accuracy now. Let's get into the part where you really get to kind of geek out a little bit and talk about your process as an editor. So let's talk proofreading and editing, your superpowers. RoleCatcher AI gives tips. What's your approach?
Oh, I love that. This is where you really get to show them what you're made of.
Right. Like, you don't want to just say, oh, I'm really good at proofreading.
Right.
Right. You really want to show them, yes, prove it exactly, and show them, that you have that multi-layered approach, that it's not just running it through spell check. So you could say something like, well, my process is really, I have a few different phases. So I'll start with the grammar and the punctuation, making sure that it's all, grammatically correct. And then I'll do a second pass where I'm really focused on the clarity and the flow, making sure that it makes sense, that it's concise, easy to understand, especially for, someone reading a legal document. And then the final step is I go through and I make sure that all the legal terminology is consistent. I'm using my style guides, my legal dictionaries to really make sure that, every detail is perfect.
You've just knocked their socks off at this point.
Right. You've shown them that you're detail-oriented.
Yeah.
You have a system. You're not going to miss anything.
Exactly.
All right. So we're at the last question.
Okay.
This is a really important one because it really shows that you're engaged, you're thinking, you're taking initiative. So what do you do when they say, RoleCatcher AI can help tailor answers? But before we wrap up, any questions for US?
Yes. Turn the table.
Yes, turn the tables.
Because if you just say, nope, I'm good, it's like, oh, man, what a missed opportunity.
Exactly. You want to have at least, one or two really good questions that you've thought about. And this shows that you're curious, you're interested, you've been paying attention. So you could ask something like, I'm curious about company-specific workflow. Could you tell me more about how Scopists collaborate with the team?
Mm-hmm.
Or what opportunities for professional development are there for Scopists at company name? Something like that.
Those are great questions because it shows that you're thinking long-term, too.
Yes, exactly.
Like, you're not just trying to get any job. You're trying to build a career.
Yes, they are.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so speaking of that, we talked about RoleCatcher's AI a little bit and how it can help tailor your answers for a specific job. How does that even work?
Yeah, so basically, RoleCatcher has this really sophisticated AI that will analyze a job description, and it will pick out the keywords that are most important for that specific job.
So for a Scopist, it might be, accuracy, attention to detail, legal terminology, things like that.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then what it will do is it'll take those keywords and it will give you feedback on your interview answers. So it will highlight areas where you might need to improve or give you suggestions for how to strengthen your answers by using more industry-specific language.
That's so helpful because I feel like sometimes you're like, what are they looking for?
Right.
What do I say?
Right. What do they want to hear? And this will tell you exactly what they want to hear.
It's like having a secret weapon.
Exactly like having a coach in your back pocket.
I love it. All right. So if you're serious about getting a job as a Scopist, this is an amazing tool.
Definitely.
Okay, so we covered a lot of ground today.
Yeah.
We talked about, those real interview questions.
Yes.
What they're really asking.
Yes.
How to answer them strategically.
Yes.
How to stand out as a top candidate.
Yes. And I think the main takeaway is, be prepared, showcase your passion for language, your attention to detail, and really show them that you are the perfect person for the job.
Let your personality shine through.
Yes.
And you know what? You got this.
You got this.
And good luck out there. Remember, we are all rooting for you.